This is your host, Matthew from the Day and Night Podcast. This is episode number 116, I believe. Um, we got another good one for y'all. I don't know where Mark is. I don't know if he's late or he got the times mixed up, but I always stay on schedule. I don't deviate. So we just going to push forward without him. If he decides to chime in, then he'll chime in. But yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get this started. So I got another good topic for everyone. Hopefully, everyone enjoys it. Hopefully, it provides a different perspective for you. That's what this whole podcast is about. So, with no further ado, the topic is, what timeline are you on? So, for some people, that may seem like a simple term to use. The best way I can explain it to where it makes sense, or for everybody to, I guess, resonate with it, is everyone has social media, I believe. So depending on what social media platform you're on, it has a timeline. And everybody's timeline is not the same. My timeline is not going to have the same as what Mark has. Mine's not going to be the same as, for the viewers out there that's watching. So basically, if you could just take that and kind of just put it in the context of your everyday living, your interactions with people, your interactions in life in general. Everybody has a timeline based off of, like I always start off with, your thoughts creates your belief creates your reality. So based off of that, you're basically going to determine what your timeline is. So, for example, the way I perceive life and the way I think and what I believe in, I'm always going to have different encounters and different experiences, from the next person. And that's common. Everyone knows that. Everybody's not going to have the same experience. But the reason why it's important to me is because with all the stuff that's going on, with the LA fires, or so-called, not say so-called, with the LA fires, even with the past election, and just in general, how you go about yourself in everyday life. Now, there's been some people that I spoke to, and there's some people that I follow on social media that stated the same thing that I kind of believe. Now, by no means am I saying that what's going on in LA is not going on. So this is where it gets kind of tricky. Now, this one particular person that I follow stated that they have friends and relatives that's in California. Now, I'm not saying that this to be true as far as what this person is saying. I have no clue, but why would be the reason for the person to lie? If they're trying to do it to get clicks and likes and views, that's kind of crazy. But anyway, so basically this person stated that the people they know that's in California, some of the stuff that's being posted or was posted on the news, posted on social media, supposedly some of these people that's in that area, they didn't see that. They didn't see the fires. They didn't see the damage as what's being posted. Now, with the technology that we have, AI can do amazing things. It can make something seem real and it really isn't real. But the first thing that will come to a person's mind is, what would be the point? Why lie about it? Now, I'm not saying that it's not happening, but it could be exaggerated to a point, because if you're all the way across the country on the East Coast or even down south, and let's say you're not a traveler, you don't get out much, and the only thing that you're hearing and seeing is what they're reporting. So you instantly go into a mode of either fear, sadness, uh, being upset, whatever the case is. You can actually display or go through one of those type of emotions. And as I stated before, fear, sadness, depression, hate, a lot of those are low vibration energies, and it keeps you at a low frequency and vibration. So if that stuff is being put out and you're taking it in that way, then it's keeping you in a low vibration and low frequency. Okay. So based off of what what a person is receiving, again, it's going to determine that frequency and vibration. And then that's going to determine what timeline you are actually experiencing. So now what this one person was saying on their social media is like, look, I'm not saying it's not real. I'm not saying it's not happening, but this person that I spoke to was 100% adamant about, look, the stuff that they're showing, I'm not seeing that. As crazy as it may sound, I'm trying to break this down to where it's not coming off as weird or whatever the case is. But if you don't have that mindset or belief in metaphysics and stuff like that, then it's not going to make sense to you. It's just going to sound off the wall, like this dude is out there. What is he talking about? So just to add some context to as far as like what the metaphysics world believe in and so forth. So in the common sense, or as I say it in 3D sense, time is linear. It's straightforward. You got your past, you got your present, and you got your future. There's no if there's no side, there's no you know parallel universe. I do believe there's a parallel universe. I do believe that at the same time there's another universe and things existing at the same moment that things are existing what we're currently experiencing now. So if you the type person that believe in linear time, then this is not going to make sense to you. Okay. So if you do believe that there are parallel universes and stuff like that, then this will kind of make sense to you. So somebody can be experiencing something totally different from what another person is experiencing, because if parallel universes truly exist, it's no way what one person is experiencing is the same thing you'll be experiencing. Now, you could still kind of be in the same space, but just based off of your mindset, your beliefs is going to determine, like I said, what your timeline is. So you can see the person, it could be a brother, sister, whatever the case is, a friend. You see them every day, you talk to them, but because of their mindset and their belief, their timeline is not going to be the same as yours. So y'all can still be existing in this universe, but their timelines are different because of how they perceive the world, if that makes sense. So that's what the question is. What timeline are you on? There's some people that's experiencing a whole bunch of strife. They deal with hate sometimes, they deal with poverty or whatever the case is. And you got some people that's living life, they're having a great time. They don't have the same issues what the next person is having. Now, of course, somebody can sit back and say, well, it's just based off of, what that person done in their life, their lifestyle, how they conduct themselves. Yeah, that's 100% true. But at the same time, have you ever stopped and thought about why is that? How is it that we can be in the same space? I'm going to use for a family, for example. You got siblings or whatever the case is. Y'all all grew up with the same parent, and you had the same parenting. I get it. Every child is different. Everybody receive things differently, and you're going to move about, different from your sibling. But just based off that concept of what you're being taught, one would think, or at least I would believe, not 100% y'all going to do exactly everything the same, but your morals, values should be somewhat similar. Now, you can still pick and choose as far as what you believe in and, what you, how you conduct yourself, but still that core values and stuff is still going to be there. Okay. So with that, each sibling is going to have their own timeline that they're experiencing. Now, I'm going to use my children for example. I got divorced a couple of years, I was almost 10 years ago. So my children were still kind of young when we got divorced. So in the early stages, I would teach them certain things. I was in the Christianity, I was heavily in the church. So a lot of my principles and values and stuff was based off of Christianity. Since then, um, I say I graduated, elevated to metaphysics and more spirituality. So my beliefs, morals, and values has changed from when I was following Christianity. So when they beat up their mom, um, she was in the church and stuff as well, but I believe her beliefs are somewhat still the same. But they was basically falling under her values and morals and stuff like that. So they basically went among their um, teenage years moving about as she was teaching them, and displaying her values, morals, and beliefs and stuff like that. So there's certain things that they experience that what I experienced as a teenager was totally different. Now, I don't expect them to be like me or think exactly the same way that I do, but it's just amazing to me when it comes to certain things, they don't see it in the same light. So their timeline is going to be totally different from mine. And as much as I was like, damn, why don't they see that? How is it they think the way that they do is based off of, like I always say, your beliefs, your beliefs create your thoughts create your belief creates your reality. So because of that, their timeline is so different from mine. And I just sit back and it amazes me because I'm thinking like, well, damn, why can't they see what I see? And it's like I just don't get it. But sitting back, doing my reading and studying and stuff like that, it makes sense. It makes sense to me now. So I'm not so much I don't say judgmental, but I don't, have so much confusion or like, well, why don't they see it like that? Excuse me, because I just totally understand now that everybody's living on their own timeline. And with these times that we're going through right now, it's very interesting because some people are fearful, some people are upset, some people just don't know what to do. And it's like you're really your future is going to be based off of what's going on right now. And you have to find a place or find a point to where is you have to determine what your timeline is going to be. And just asking a question like, what is it? What timeline are you on? Are you seeing the same thing that most people are seeing? All the strife and stuff that's going on. And that's what's crazy about it, because I was thinking about this. I said, so what if the timeline that I'm on is not the timeline that I'm supposed to be on, but because I'm so into metaphysics and energy and stuff like that, I'm actually on this timeline of all the stuff that's going on, opposed to a timeline where people don't see the stuff that's going on or it doesn't affect them. And it's like, okay, as much as I talk about it, why am I on this timeline that I'm seeing a lot of this stuff? Now, I'm not personally experiencing it, but I still see it. And that's because I be on social media, not a lot, but quite often. On TikTok, well, now that's going YouTube and Instagram, but it's not so much YouTube and Instagram that had a lot of that stuff. It was more so TikTok. So it's going to be real interesting here in the next, month or so going forward. Not only see where I'm going to be at and see how I'm viewing, life. My timeline should shift because I know I'm no longer going to be seeing a lot of that stuff, and I'm not going to be taking that stuff in and subconsciously and consciously thinking about it. So my timeline should shift. So basically what I'm getting to is, as crazy as this may sound, with all the stuff that's going on, we can really still live in peace, not have this stuff affect us. Uh, just get on the right timeline, actually truly affect your timeline in the sense of is love, is peace, is happiness, is joy, all those positive things, and all those high vibration and frequency things that, I always talk about. So that's basically what I wanted to talk about. Like I said, Mark is not here, so I can't have that, that rebuttal or his perception on it. But yeah, so that's what the topic is about today. So I'm just going to, give a little bit more context as far as what the metaphysics side. Um, so like the definition of presentism, and I'm a big firm believer as far as living and being in the present. So basically being in the present is only the present moment is real. The past, the future does not exist. And again, some people might say to themselves, that don't make sense. I know the past exists. It exists because it's still in my memory. I remember what happened. Now, when we say the past doesn't exist, it doesn't exist in the sense of it's not tangible. It's not something that you can touch right now and hold on to and grasp. It's something that's in the back of your mind that you're holding on to. And in the sense of, like I said, you can't touch it physically. So it doesn't exist. So that's what it really means when we say, or when you hear that term, the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist either because it isn't here. So the only thing that truly exists right now in the moment is the present time. So I always say to myself, and I've asked other people this, why do we get upset based off of something that happened maybe yesterday, a year ago, 5 years ago, that has no bearing on this present moment? Now, in a sense, it could have had, some bearings as far as how you move about and, things that happen in your life. You could have conducted yourself based off of that. But if it's something that happened 5 years ago, 10 years ago, why are we still holding on to that stuff? Why do we still have that in the back of our mind? It doesn't exist anymore. It's gone. It happened. It's something to, to look at in the moment. It's like, dang, it's jacked up. I had to make sure I don't do this again, learn from it, and let's move forward. That's the way it's supposed to be. We should not be constantly going back what happened to us 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15, whatever the time, even something that happened yesterday. Just in that moment, like I said, we learn from it, take note of it, and just keep moving forward. How many of us think about the future? I ain't gonna lie, I was always thinking about the future. I still do to this, to this day. I think about the future as far as, where I'm going to be at, what I'm going to be doing, what it's going to look like. And it's a challenge to live in the present moment because we've been raised and programmed to always live in the future or plan for the future, or we've been programmed to think about the past. But how many of us actually been taught or shown how to live in the present moment? I'm not saying everybody, some people can, you know, but for the most part, a lot of the stuff, if you look at the news, social media, whatever the case is, a lot of the stuff is stuff that happened in the past. You know, it's just it's a real um, broad topic to talk about. It really, because just in the sense of thinking time doesn't exist, only now exists, but it does, or at least you believe it does because you still can remember it. So I think if we can just grasp that concept of the only thing that truly exists is the here and now, I believe that things would be totally different. I really do. Because we're not thinking about how we were hurt, not thinking about um, what may be 5 years from now, 2 years from now. And again, that's hard because you got some people that's not getting paid a lot. They have to think about, damn, how am I going to pay this bill next week? How am I going to pay this bill for next month? Am I going to have enough money in savings to be able to go on a trip that I want to go on? I got to pay my mortgage. I got to pay my rent, my car note. Those things keep us out of the present moment because we're always thinking about the next day or whatever the next situation is going to be. So this construct has been built to keep us in in fear, so to speak. And I know most people, they always say, well, I'm not fearful. I don't fear anything. And we talked about this before. We had a podcast on it. Fear is not in a sense of, oh my God, and you clench in and you shake in. That's not what fear is. That's a form of fear, but it's not totally what fear is. Fear is when you're consciously thinking about something and you're putting your thoughts and energy into whatever the situation is, and you're taking yourself out of the present moment. That's fear. So a lot of us, and myself included, I talked about this before. I went and saw. I don't know what her label was, but she would read people auras and stuff like that. And she read mine. She was like, you're living in fear. And I'm like, I ain't living in fear. But when I sat down and thought about it, I was not in a sense of like, oh my God. No, I was living in fear in the sense of I was always thinking about the next move. I was thinking about the future. I was thinking about what was done to me in the past. So I was living in fear because I was saying, well, I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm going to make sure this doesn't happen. Again, that's not living in the present moment. That was me living in fear. That's a low vibration. So after I thought about it and saw how I moved and how I think, I was like, damn, she on to something. My ego was like, nah, bro, you ain't living in fear. She don't know what she's talking about. But when I sat back and honestly thought about it, I was like, damn, I was truly living in fear. And that's not how we're supposed to move. We have to move in the present moment. And that's it. As crazy as that may sound, we should always just be in the present moment. I remember my dad used to always say that tomorrow doesn't exist. And my mom used to get pissed off. And he was on to something. Like when you sit back and just truly think about it, tomorrow doesn't exist. The only thing that truly exists is right now. And if we can learn how to grasp that and hold on to it, and I believe that we could move more so in peace and love and high vibration, because you enjoy, well, again, that's going to come down to what your mindset is and what your belief is. Because if you a person that believe in hate and all that, you still going to display hate in that moment. You're still going to receive hate because that's what your thought process is. So it really comes down to what you believe. It's still going to determine what you experience in the moment. But I just truly believe that if we truly just stayed in that moment, things may not be 100% different or better, but it would be significantly better than what it is, what we're experiencing right now. Because I talked about that before, as far as the universe has to be balanced. It has to be good. It has to be bad. Okay. So, and then the other thing I want to talk about is it's called implications. Reality is constantly being created and destroyed in the now. So I just basically talked about that. Everything that we do in this moment, like I said, we're creating our timeline on a daily basis. So when we wake up in the rising, we really determine what our day is going to look like. What I'm saying now is what our timeline is going to look like based off of what we believe in. And just knowing like, hey, today, right in this moment, I'm creating what the rest of this day is going to look like. Because I know, like I said, I've done it myself. Being on customer service, doing customer service, I was like, man, as much as I want to say these beautiful people are calling, but in the back of my mind, I would still have, man, it's some real assholes out here. So I was still attracting that stuff, opposed to just truly believing that, hey, it's some beautiful people for real, and just enjoying the moment for what it is and just staying in that moment. Okay. So that's basically what implications is, as far as, reality and just staying in the moment. So let me see what I got next. Now, I know many people heard this before too. I'm sorry, I'm going to take a pause. So KJ said, thank you again, KJ, for watching. Do you have suggestions for forgetting about the past, especially when the past was traumatic? So it's like I was saying before, it's going to be a challenge because it really, really determines on what your belief system is. If you're not the type of person that believes in energy, um, and metaphysics, vibration, frequency, it's going to be a challenge for me to really give a suggestion because everything I suggest is going to be based off of that concept. So if you don't believe in that, then I don't really have anything that I could provide that would be helpful because as much as I say the past doesn't exist anymore, if you don't have that mindset of, okay, time is not real, it's what we make of it, then it's not going to make sense. So, I mean, I apologize if that doesn't help or answer your question, but I just don't want to say something to where it's just going to be surface level because, like, okay, that sounds good, but if it's not, you know, how you truly move as a person, then it's not going to work because everything starts with belief. And I spoke on that, last week. And I don't know if some people thought I was talking crazy, but I was just using belief as like a metaphorically as far as it being a God, not that God is belief, but because so much comes off of and out of belief that really determines everything. So if that belief is not strong, then nothing is going to work for that person. And I'm just being real and honest. I don't want to just throw some answers and suggestions out there. It has to start with your belief. So when I say tomorrow doesn't exist, what happened in the past, it happened, but it should no longer have an effect on what you do today. What it was in that moment is what happened. So if something happened to someone as a child, you was a child. You're no longer a child. You're a grown adult. So why what happened as a child should have any bearing on who you are right now? It shouldn't because you're not a child anymore. You're an adult. So some people kind of hold on to, well, that happened to me. No, that happened to you as a child. Now, if you still think and move like a child, then that's why it still affects you because you haven't truly matured into an adult. And that's one of the things is so many children walking around that looks like adults, they move like adults, but in the mind and in the heart, they're not adults. They're still that child, and that's a lot of us. I'm not just speaking like if I'm this person that got it all together. And no, I'm just speaking off of my experience and what I know. And that's basically what it is you're holding on to stuff as if you were still that child, and if something happened to you as an adult, again, in that moment, that's what it was. It was in that moment. If we truly ascend the way we're supposed to, we are not the same people we were 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even yesterday. We should not be the same person because whatever experiences we experience, we go through it, we learn from it, and then move forward. And then those same things don't happen to you again because you know not what to do or to do those same things again. So hopefully that makes sense. Um, that's the best way I can explain it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to move on to this next one. All right. So examples found in some interpretations of advanced physics and spiritual teachings. Okay, so implications. Reality may exist outside of time entirely, suggesting a state of being rather than becoming. All right, so I'm going to read this comment from 3D to Destroyer. I like that name. I love that name. If it's what I think it is, what it means, that's good. So many people use their childhood as a crutch an excuse to continue making terrible decisions, and something trivial to blame instead of accepting accountability for themselves. Perfectly said. I don't know if you're a man or a woman, it doesn't really matter, but that was beautiful. And that's 100% what it is. And the bad thing about it is 3D Destroyer, we aren't taught these things. We were programmed. And just based off your name, I'm pretty sure you noticed, we were programmed to move a certain type of way, to think a certain type of way, and to act a certain type of way. So if we don't have anybody or have had anybody to display that example of how we're supposed to move, I can't really blame them because they were just programmed. Everybody can't come to that consciousness as far as what the truth is. That's partly what I'm trying to do. But, it's like I just stated earlier, it starts with the mind and your belief. You know, um, as much as some people do use that as a crutch, do they have anybody in their environment or on their timeline that's showing them what the truth is and how to move and so forth? So I don't want to say that it's 100% everybody's fault, because everybody is not chosen. Just aren't chosen. They really aren't. It's a few of us that have been chosen to be that light and to be that beacon. Unfortunately, but I do get what you're saying. For those that do know, some people really do use it as a crutch. They don't want to move forward. But the only thing I can say about that is, people like you and I, we got to be that example. If we're around people that move like that, we have to be that example so they can see, okay, there are people out here that are doing the right thing, that's trying to move the right way. And the things that they speak on, they actually embody it. So I hope that makes sense. But yeah, so I don't know, KJ, if you heard that response to your question. Like I said, hopefully it answered your question. And again, I apologize if it didn't. But if that's not your mindset, I don't want to just be up here just telling you stuff that you won't be able to implement because it's based off of how you believe. It's just going to really not be effective. Okay. All right. So non-linear. Now, this is more so what I want to say 100% is following, but I understand it, understand what it is, and I'm doing my best to grasp it, and I'm actually moving that direction, that flow. And that is, time does not follow a strict order, and it can be experienced or accessed in any sequence. So time does not matter. Time does not follow a strict order, and it can be experienced or accessed in any sequence. So this is get interesting because, being in some form of military, everything is structured. Everything is based off of time. I should be a training NCO. So I actually had to construct the training schedule. Excuse me. Everything was based off a particular time, and it had to be followed in that order. And it's funny because I remember I've always 100% wanted to follow that training schedule to the T. And this is what's ironic about this, is because what I believe in and what I'm following goes against to what I believed at that moment. And it's just coming to me right now. Like I said, I was very upset when we didn't follow the training schedule to a T. And I remember my first sergeant, he was like, look, he's like, Sergeant T, that training schedule just meant to be a reference. That's it. We're not going to be able to follow and do everything that's on a training schedule. He said, things happen. That's not reality, because something can come happen in a minute that's going to make us have to deviate off of what was planned and scheduled. So that's just a reference for us to follow, what we're supposed to do throughout the day. That's all it is, a reference point. So basically that's what nonlinear time is it doesn't move in sequence. There's no pinpoint, this is when it's supposed to happen, this is how it's supposed to happen. So somebody can be enlightened or learn the truth at the age of 10. Whereas society and um, normal education would tell you that there's a process, which I do believe there's a process as far as how we are both, how we're supposed to ascend and grow based off that time span of development. There's a timeline and pattern as far as where you're supposed to be at certain ages. As far as in the nonlinear, that doesn't exist. You can be 5, 10, well, not maybe 5, but 10, 15. You can be a young adult and still have that consciousness and know how to move about in this universe as a high functional um, energy being. So there's no timeline on that. Some people can, like I said, learn it at the age of 5, 10. Others can be 60, 70 years old. Just could be they just didn't, make up their mind. They just didn't come under the right type of leadership or examples, maybe till later in their life. So basically what I'm saying is there's no pinpoint time as far as when things are supposed to happen. Again, this is non-linear. This is not everything straightforward. This thing can happen to the left, to the right, whatever the case is, forward, backwards. It just happens. Okay. And that's more so what I believe in. Okay. And then examples of this, altered states of consciousness, actually having involving higher dimensional beings and mystical experiences. Now, my sister, she experienced this a lot. She has astral traveled a lot. She have drink. It's just crazy. If you ever sit down and talk to her about some of her experiences. Now, for the common person that don't have that belief in these type of things, they just look at her like she's crazy. But for those of us that do believe this and know this stuff to be real, she's an amazing person to talk to just based off of her experiences. And that's what I believe we are supposed to experience is everything happens anytime, any place, anywhere, and it's not no pinpoint time as far as when it's supposed to happen. Okay. All right. KJ said, thank you for answering that question. You're welcome. Okay. So I got stated the question before. If anybody's out there listening, if you want to just type in, so what timeline do you resonate the most with? Do you resonate with the timeline as far as what everybody's pushing out? All the fear, all the rumors of the World War III is coming and, rumor that a robot's going to take over and AI, all that stuff. And I was thinking about this the other day. We're all being told this. It has not happened yet. So again, based off of time does not exist, these people are saying what's going to happen in the future. Now, for those of you that believe in Christianity and stuff like that, and those of you that read the Bible, I believe it said time is not known. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. Time is not known when judgment is going to happen or when God is going to come back or whatever the case is. So how is it these people are predicting, okay, it's going to probably happen within the next couple of years or whatever the case is. So a lot of people are basing what's going on and they're making predictions as far as what's going to happen. Now just sit back and think about that for a minute. You're being told this is going to happen, kind of sort of when it's going to happen, and then they tell you how it's going to happen. So how can one know that? So to me, you're basically saying, just stop working. Don't have no hope because everything is going to hell. Everything is everything is just doom and gloom. So there's no positivity. Well, you know what? There is a resolution. We can all, live in peace and harmony. We can do this. All we got to do is just, stick together and love each other the right way more. Why can't that be said? Opposed to this is just going to happen. Um, World War III is going to happen. Russia's doing this. China's doing this. I remember when I was in the military, I've heard or had heard many a times for my 21 years that World War III was happening. And 21 years later, look, where are we? So for me, it's just based off of, again, I maybe sound like a broken record. What do you believe? If you truly believe you create your reality, then create a reality where none of this stuff exists. But that's going to be a challenge because your natural instinct and your natural ego is going to tell you, nope, I know this is real. When I turn on the TV, when I look at my phone, I see this happening. Now, I said this to somebody. This may sound crazy, but until it physically happens in front of me, I don't believe it. I don't care what's being shown. Again, that's a timeline that you're creating because of things you're watching and the way you're believing. So when you create that in your mind, the universe is going to have to produce that. You are producing what you're thinking and what you're speaking of. So that way it gives you evidence of what you're believing is real. The only way to get evidence that your belief is real is it have to be shown. So turn that belief into something positive and see what the result is. But that's going to be a challenge if you continue to entertain stuff that's going to contradict that. So even though TikTok has been banned, in a way, I'm kind of glad because I know some people say, well, it had great information. I learned some stuff from it. Now, that's good. But my question is, how did they know this information? Where did they get the information from? So if they got the information, you can get the information. So you don't have to depend on someone else to educate you. Educate yourself. It's that simple. And a lot of stuff that they were selling, half that junk came from China. And a lot of that stuff is being sold on Amazon. And I'm not knocking anybody. A lot of people are making money. That was a way for them to make money. It's another way for people to make money and, survive. So I'm not knocking, nobody's hustle. But at the same time, there's a lot of people piggybacking off of what other people were doing, and it was fear mongering. So again, that could just be based off of my perception of what TikTok is, where everybody else's perception may have been positive. So they had more positive perception of what that platform was. But basically what I'm getting to is I think it's good because I believe it's going to allow people to start looking within because everything starts within us. That the ego is outer. For the ego, everything is outside of you. True spirituality, everything is within. God is within you, not without. Opposed to what you're being taught, it's inside you. God is within you. So if we stop looking outside, start looking inside, things may start to change. All right, y'all still beautiful people. Are we back? You can hear me. So 3D the Destroyer says it's programming. If you're always anticipating the end of the world, worrying, anxiety, negative thoughts, that energy resonates through your physical body and affects others' vibrations and energy. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you, 3D Destroyer. You basically just said the same thing that I say almost every week, and the people that truly know me. The stuff we speak, we're uh, it's crazy because I'm glad somebody else out there knows this. Um, that the negative thoughts, we are creating that stuff. But the thing is just getting past that. And like I said, that's what I was getting to. That's why I'm kind of glad that the TikTok thing was taken away, because hopefully now more people will start looking within and start doing their own research and finding out the truth for yourself and not relying on somebody else to provide it for you or to you. Okay. And then 3D Destroyer said there's definitely a spiritual battle going on around us. I believe that. Um, but, it's like I was saying earlier, for me, and I was just thinking about this, like I'm in a, process of, purchasing a home, and a lot of my thoughts and energy was going into that. And prior to that, my desires, and I said this before, is to gain spiritual gifts and to realize what my spiritual gifts are and to ascend to my higher self. All this 3D stuff, I don't care about. Will I experience it? Yes, because that's part of us being here is experience this, but not to grasp and hold on to it and make that our sole goal and mission of being here. I'm like, I really want to use the spiritual gifts that we have. I want to find out what it is before I leave here. Okay. And 3D said, I'm picking up what you're laying down, bro. I'm new here and listening to what you're saying, and your word ring the truth. Well, I appreciate it. I'm thankful that this has resonate with somebody. And I've talked about that too before. And that's the other thing I was thinking about. We don't have that many subscribers or viewers, but my belief is it's going to reach to the right people. It's going to attract the right people. And that's the only thing I care about, is this resonates with the right people, it attracts the right people, and they get something from it. And then whoever is in your space is going to attract that same type of energy and vibration and frequency, and then they'll move forward. That's what it's all about for me. So, yeah, so I'm not going to stay on too much longer. But hopefully, like I said, this helps somebody. It's just to provoke thought. And that question, like I said, at some point, if you want to put it in the chat now or later, just ask yourself, what timeline are you on? Because I truly believe that we're getting to a point to where people have to choose. Either you're going to be on this side of this universe or earth, to where it's nothing but chaos, strife, sorrow, or you're going to be on the side of where there's love, there's peace. But that starts with us creating and believing our own reality. What timeline are you going to be on? Do you want to be on this timeline where it's just all this mass destruction, or the timeline where it's nothing but peace and love? I truly believe that it is. I'm going to hold on to that. But as I've said earlier, I thank those for that chimed in. 3D Destroyer, I appreciate you for chiming in. I definitely appreciate your comments, and hopefully you'll be a follower and subscriber of this channel. And we got more content coming. So y'all be good. Y'all have a great week. And until next time, beautiful people, love, light, and peace. Remember, our belief creates our reality. Until then, y'all be good. Love.